So, guys, Mike Mayock was fired by the Raiders after 3 seasons. He only only took full control of personnel decisions when John Gruden resigned in October. So what does that tell you about who's the GM? Prior to that, it was 51-49 in favor of Gruden. Raiders posted a record of 25-24, the team's first playoff appearance since 2016 and only its second since 2002. Numerous on and off the field controversies. Raiders had issues this season. Key, was this the right decision by Las Vegas?
That decision was made when John Gruden was resigned, or whatever you want to call it, with the Las Vegas Raiders. The Mike Mayock, that was just a thing just waiting. It was on a so to speak a conveyor belt. It was just going around and around and around until the season was over with. No matter if they were bringing Rich Bisaccia back or not, Mike Mayock was basically essentially a dead man walking. When John Gruden was relieved of his duties, so was Mike Mayock, because they're tied at the hip. Mike Mayock was essentially a glorified assistant to the head coach, is what he was. He was not a qualified general manager. A qualified general manager is someone like a Jerry Reese that was with the Giants, or somebody like a Rich McKay with the Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Those are general managers. The guys like Reggie McKenzie, who was there before Mike Mayock. So in the end, he was the guy, basically the yes man. You know that guy, Max, where you crack a joke and he expects for you to laugh. You expect for him to laugh at the joke even though it's bad. That guy.
Yeah.
Just said that's who he is. John Gruden walks in the room and says, "The sky is blue." And Mike Mayock, yeah, it's blue. It's like that
guy. Me a yes man? Gruden's gone. You're now going to replace the GM. GMs usually like to hire their own coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Jay, in this case, team seems to like Bisaccia. Now, you can look at the record under Gruden and Bisaccia. They're both a game over 500. The Bisaccia sample size this season is larger. The point differential is significantly worse under Bisaccia than Gruden. They're minus 1.4 under Gruden, minus 5 under Bisaccia. The turnover margin, much worse under Bisaccia, though, again, in a larger sample, but it's minus 1 to minus 10. So the underlying numbers say they didn't play as well for Bisaccia quite as they did for Gruden. In both cases, they look around like a 500-ish team, but Bisaccia is well-liked and was dealing with enormous controversy holding that together. Would you keep him, Jay?
Yeah, if I were Mark Davis, I would talk to whoever that new general manager is that I brought in and say, hey, listen, this is what this situation is for the time being. I'm not married to it long term, but I feel like considering all the adversity that Bisaccia has faced and how our team battled to make it to the playoffs, even though we lost, he deserves the right to coach his team moving forward. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be our coach for the next 3-4 years, but in the interim, until we see this franchise going in a different direction, he will be your guy.
Key, on the other hand, like,
fine with me.
I understand that, because if you're doing, as you would say, your due diligence and looking for the right guy, it's not. I know the new GM wants to hire a guy, but he might come and take a look and kick the tires and go, you know what? I think maybe they got the right guy now. What are the chances of that, you think?
You do got the right guy now. And you look at Rich Bisaccia and you talk about the numbers. One of the things that you got to factor into that, his offensive coordinator, Greg Olson, was not calling plays. It was John Gruden calling the plays prior to Gruden's departure. Then Greg Olson got kicked into the offensive coordinating role. That will be, in my opinion, one of the first moves if Rich Bisaccia is retained, is to let Greg Olson either go back to coaching position or fire him and hire a new offensive coordinator, somebody that could be a little more creative, a little more dynamic in terms of the play calling. The only thing he did was the John Gruden offense, which is really three yards in a cloud of dust, even in the air when you're throwing the football. So he's got to make some wholesale changes on his staff if, in fact, he's retained, and I think that will serve him better to be able to do that.
I'm not sure he's long-term the guy, but what I am sure of is that his players will fight for him. Like, we talk about that being here in New York. We didn't see the New York Giants fight for Joe Judge. You saw this team corral around him and utilize that, and really purpose-driven made the playoffs. I mean, they won their final 4 games down the stretch.
I totally agree with that.
If you look at it, and you mentioned the Giants, Jay and Max, if you look at it, and this is for both of y'all, would y'all take Rich Bisaccia or would you take Joe Judge?
Yeah, I'll take Rich in a second. It's not in the question. Yes.
So if y'all say that, he's got now a track record, a small sample size of a track record,
Yep.
but it's clearly better than some coaches that get second and third years after their first year and they stumble in their first year. So he's the same, in my opinion, as some of first-time head coaches that are coaching. I mean, what's the difference between him and Brandon Staley? He beat Staley. Staley
made the
beat
playoffs.
him. He made the playoffs, and Staley didn't.
That's the difference.
But we don't hear Staley's job on the line, correct?
I think actually people have an eye on Staley. But key to me, Jay's point, that I think is the best one, in that the number one thing with a coach, right? Like, there are other things too, but does the team quit on him or not? Can he get the team to stay together and play together? If you have that as a coach, you make that dude long-term. You're always going to be competitive. You know, when you don't have the talent, you won't win. When you have a little more talent, you will, depending on what players he gets. But you'll always be competitive. Fan base will be engaged. When you lose games, you're normally not going to get blown out. Usually you'd look up, and after 10 games, you're not out of the playoff hunt. That's what fans are looking for.
Yeah, but even with that, Max, interim head coaches don't go undefeated, right? I mean, that doesn't happen. Interim head coaches don't all of a sudden run the table. I mean, he did a job holding things together, like Jay said, despite all of the controversy and all of the things that the Las Vegas Raiders went through throughout this season. He was able to still manage them into the playoffs, and you can clearly tell that the team likes him.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.